Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Check, check. Oh, no. My ear's plugged up again. Oh, no. What's up, King? Good morning. Andy Candy debate. What up? I gotta fix my drone. You see what that thing says? I got permission to put that up there. I'm not gonna go into details about why. We'll talk more about it here shortly. I'll say where and when. No, I'll say where and when. Yeah. Just what the ever. I'll say where and when, but I can't say why. Can't say why. That goal is up there. Well, I can give a loose why. There, live, finally. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I think right now we're going to review this World War debate. They told me it might get copyrighted, and they said they want to protect the IP and stuff, but they said as long as it's transformative. Like, I'm not just going to play your video and just let it play. But I will react to it. I think if you want your new brand to pop off, you need to let people react to stuff. I hate that Jubilee does that. Of course, if they're like just playing the video and not saying anything, then yeah, you should shut that down. But we got till 7 p.m. tonight to get as many votes as we can in for the World War thing. Yeah, to my debate. That's what I was going to skim through it and maybe explain a few things. See where I messed up. Where I could have done better. And maybe explain some things. There was one misunderstanding that happened, and I thought about it later. I don't think the guy I was debating understood what I was saying about one part. Eventually, I need to write this opening. Maybe I'll write it on the. No, I don't want to write it on the plane because. No, I need to get it written before then. I need the polygamy debate. Polygyny. I need to write 2 openings. I need to write a 10-minute one and a 5-minute one. Oh, shoot. Media Day. UFC Media Day happened. I forgot. I'm not super excited about this fight, but we got Makhachev and Machado Gary. Machado Gary's the biggest simp cuck ever. It's sad that he's a UFC fighter. Like, technically, he's a badass. You would not want to get in a fight with Ian Gary in a bar. But when you look at his lifestyle, you just can't help but make fun of the guy. He's such a dork. But I still hope he beats Makhachev. I think it's a good idea. Bro, is that a Destiny signature behind you? Yeah, you can read that? Well, it's Destiny, God Logic, Loner Box, Rachel, Mike Jones, WN. I forgot who WN is. Andrews is on there somewhere. I think Andrews is just this one. This little thing. And then this one up here, I think is Rob. It kind of looks like a R and an N. I think this is Rob's. And then WN, I forget who that is. Oh, that's Waleed Naeem or whatever, the Muslim guy. All he put is WN in regular letters. Not even cursive, not even cool script, just WN. Lame. Lame signature. But yeah, NSE is not so erudite. Yeah, hers is also lame. NSE. Thanks for caring about your signature. Signatures used to mean something. Used to be your calling card. You do a cool symbol, you do a special something unique. This is my signature. Regular letters. It's just WN NSE. But I think Godlogics is cool, and he signed his regular name under it, so you know who it is. I like that. Destiny is gay. It's like a 3. But it's the only one you can read, I guess. Yeah. The only one you can see on the screen is the Destiny one. Yeah, a lot of stuff on the table right now that I gotta work on and put stuff together, figure things out. We're trying to put together a polygyny debate with Rob Kolowski, and also Avarice said he could make this happen, and I'm gonna keep mentioning it to make sure, and we gotta hold him to it. But he said 2 months from now, which is great because I like taking my time and stuff. But polygyny debate. I've done a lot of research already. One more thing I need to look into is like the studies on the harms, cultural and societal harms of it. There's a lot. It's not good. And then I got to write an opening. I think I might need to write 2 openings, a 5-minute one and a 10-minute one. Swords of Reason would be 10 minutes, but I think usually a lot of other people would do 5-minute openings. And then Ward War, which I'm going to find out the results of my debate tonight. I have a feeling I'm going to win. And I don't know if I should say this. The way the second round's going to happen, I guess I can say this because we're already kind of seeing it happen. You know how they did 2 each day? The winners of those 2, we already know this because Marte already posted a video that he already recorded his round 2 and who it was with and what the topic was. And they reposted it, so I guess they didn't get mad at him for saying it. But I think the way it's kind of going to work is the 2 debates that happen on the same day, since all the results will come in for those 2 debates on the same day, the winner of those 2 debates faces off against each other in round 2. But it's like as soon as the results come in, the next morning they're going to call both of us, group call, figure out a prompt and stuff, whoever it is. And the debate's like soon after that. So not a lot of prep time now in the later rounds, less prep time. So, but I have a feeling if it is that way and I go up against whoever wins the other person that had a debate that on the same day as me, if I win, then that means I go up against the winner between Nick Turner and the other guy. And I have a feeling that Nick is going to win. And that is Not So Erudite's husband. So it's very possible that I might be going up against Not So Erudite's husband in round 2. That's not guaranteed. But I have a feeling that might be what happens. which is rough because I was looking at his ex. He's like connected with Chud Logic, and I don't know if they're friends. This seems like what his posts were saying. They're not really friends. Maybe people don't like him. I don't know, but he seemed to be kind of arguing with and insulting people like Chud Logic and Queeman. I've heard that name before. I don't know who that guy is, but I hear his name all the time when I listen to lefty streams. So, and his wife is not so erudite. So he's going to have a lot of the lefties backing him. He has a way bigger Twitter following than me. I'm not sure if his ex following is bigger than my YouTube one, but probably. So I was just blatantly wrong about therapy. What was I wrong about, King? Tell me about the fake therapy and how I was wrong about it. Please. What does iatrogenic mean, King? You're not a good debate critiquer. You don't know what you're talking about. What was I wrong about? Because I haven't, read books about this, done multiple debates about it, argued with people constantly about it my entire life. Please tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. The only effective therapy is BCE or BCT, behavioral cognitive therapy. That's the only effective therapy by the stats. And behavioral cognitive therapy, if you read The Myth of Mental Illness from Thomas Saz, he talks about how all that really is talking and listening to people, and their parents should be doing that, and therapists shouldn't be doing that. But we have a breakdown in the family, which could be all sorts of causes. So therapy really isn't effective. All therapy is talking to a stranger about your problems. And sure, it makes you feel good. You feel better. But does it cure your depression? Has therapy ever cured anybody's depression? No. You know what cures depression? Going to the gym, going outside, hanging out with your friends, praying, going to church. That's how you cure depression. You don't even cure depression because you don't cure an imaginary illness. There's no such thing as a mental illness. Illness is a physical condition. Mental is metaphysical. It's a mind thing. We don't even know how consciousness in the mind works. There's no serotonin imbalances. There's no actual solid physical evidence that we could say for what is depressed or what is anxiety. All of that's fake. And we've known that since World War II, but they still lie to people and say it's a serotonin imbalance. It's because you don't have enough serotonin. No, that's been debunked for 50 years. Well, don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. You said I was wrong about therapy. You were just blatantly wrong about therapy. What was I wrong about? And I wasn't talking about therapy itself. I conceded to him, which I didn't have to do, but I didn't want to sound crazy radical, because that's not my audience. They can't tell. I didn't want to say something like. But anyway, even if I concede some therapy works in some cases, that's not what we're debating about. We're debating about therapy culture. And that's all I talked about the whole time. What are you talking about? I agree with that. Calm down. You calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. All right. They just make you feel good and appease you. I know. King Blackout was saying JS doesn't gargle balls. Fake news. I don't gargle balls. Oh, I guess if we got to grift, and fundraise. Now that there's some people here. Guys, look at this. I'll play the song in a second if you want me to. We'll put the song on the table today. But I definitely don't gargle. What's up, Tyrannosaurus Hicks? Dude, why is everybody turned into dinosaurs now? I love it. I'm like the dino guy. It's because Hello Listener made some dinosaur album, right? Is that why everybody did that? That's cool, but I like it because I've been talking about dinosaurs forever. And if y'all are in construction, Tyrannosaurus Hicks, if you're in construction, you've proven my point. Dinosaurs built the pyramids. Bottom line. We're raising money. Fundraiser. Any of the money that gets sent to the super chats, I'm not going to get in time for the trip. So I would super appreciate if you want to help out with the trip. Cash apps, Venmos, PayPals. But the super chat money, I'm just going to pay for the trip and for what I need and for all that stuff, my plane and my food. But I'm just going to pay for it up front, but then this will help me recoup next month some of that money that I might be going into the savings a little bit. Dinosaur is a banger album. So everything helps. But yeah, I'm going to Vegas in 2 weeks. You might have noticed the other night, Speakeasy was doing a Vegas fundraiser stream as well. Who knows? Maybe we'll be there at the same time. Maybe. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to go to Vegas. Hello Listener went rogue. See his recent video, spazzed out on Rob Andrew Crucible. The one where he's sitting in the camper and his wife's talking to him. Is that the one you talk about? And he's like, I just love Candace's eyes. Is that the one you're talking about? That was like a joke. If that's the one you're talking about, Cool Vic played that last night. And to me, that was just a joke. Is it not a joke? I don't know. But anyway, no, not that video. Oh, then I haven't seen it. I haven't really watched a lot of his. I've only heard about him from Jim Bob from their scuff debates or whatever. And then Emmett plays his music all the time. So now I know who he is. I mean, I've known who he is for like 6 months, but I don't really like watch a lot of his stuff. He is funny though. Him and Jim Bob crack me up. His music, listen. Listen. If you guys like it, awesome. Music is all about taste and about what you like. It's not my type of music. And just because I think the guy's funny and I like his content and stuff doesn't mean that I'm automatically just going to be like, this is great music. Because personally, I'm not it's not my flavor of music. I don't want to talk shit, but I'm not really into it, But then but he'd probably be like, Lil Wayne is garbage. King Blackout says Lil Wayne is garbage. He'd probably say Eminem sucks. T.I. sucks. But Freddie says T.I. sucks. So I don't know. My music is like Southern hip hop or lyrical, technical hip hop, fast rap, and Southern rap, and like screamo rock, like Slipknot, Mudvayne rock, Disturbed. I'm listening to either one or the other every day when I'm at the gym. Quit stalling. Play it. Okay, yeah. I gotta play it. Well, hold on. I can't tell you what this Vegas trip is for. Okay? I'm just gonna tell you I'm going to Vegas. And I'm gonna I gotta apply for some sort of license or something to fly the drone. Wink, wink. Yeah. I'm definitely going to get a license to fly it. But no, it's Dude, I don't know if it's smart to let me have a drone in Vegas. I'm gonna be trying to like chase the roller coaster through the tracks. I don't know if the drone's gonna make it home. Speaking of, I got to change the propellers on it. But hold on, I'm not gonna be able to find this song. Did I put it on the soundboard? Huh. I thought I had it on the soundboard. Where's are we not men in my messages? All right. JS is awesome. JS goggles balls. JS goggles balls. I got some. We got some rain last night too. JS goggles balls. JS goggles balls. New metal. Is that what it's called? I can still hear it. I'm just grabbing the. I should have everything I need to change the propellers in this bag right here. Who made this? I don't know. Some crazy guy. Some douche. All right. How many are broken? I know one is broken, and then the other ones are like fraying, which you're supposed to change them when they start to do that. Let's see. Oh, shoot. I think I need to change all of them. So this one's broken completely off. These two. So this one has a little bit of flaking on it, but I think it'll be all right. This one's okay. This one has a lot of chips in it. Might need to change that one. I don't know. I don't want to change them if they don't for sure need it. That one's all right. This one definitely got to go. And these bottom ones, they're just scuffed up. They seem all right though. Should be okay. These ones are okay. These ones are really scratched up. But they're not like splitting or fraying. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, that one's got a little piece coming off of it. I might need to change that one. This one's broken. Okay, let's just change the broken one first. So there should be ba. How much to permaban someone from chat? I don't have a permaban rule. think I just need to open. How many do I have? I have 8. So I have one full set. Where'd the screwdriver go? There it is. Screwdriver. Propellers. I think I'm just going to change 2 of them. Yeah, this one's broken too. This one's got to go. This one's got to go. This one maybe. This one's not broken, but it's chipped and it's about to break. I'll change these 2. Now I have to figure out if I do this wrong, it it won't fly. So there's some sort of pattern. I'm just gonna match it up. I'm just gonna match it up. Good morning, premonition. Yeah, so Vegas for like 4 nights. Yeah. In like 5 days. I'm gonna get there early on Friday. Where are the screws? Oh, the screws are in the little baggie here. I'm gonna need to order some more propellers. Holy moly, Batman. Okay, so these 2. So how's it go? They don't have. How come these ones have these weird, these little symbols and these ones don't? Does it matter? Okay, this. I'm gonna save these old, not quite broken, totally ones, just in case I ever run out. I don't understand why some of them have. Oh, A and B. Just drop one on the floor. Remember to also replace the screws. Okay, so this is the. I'm a little bit confused. As long as I just match the. Just match them up, you know? Just gotta match them up. I'm about to find out if it matters. Oh my God, Marilyn. Marilyn, I'm gonna let them permaban you if you just come in my chat and talk shit to everybody all the time. Look, I can scroll up and see who started it. Well, if they started it, then. But I don't know. You kind of have already started it permanently. How do you? How do you hold this? Hold on. Precision work. Tiny screws with tiny screwdrivers. Tiny screws and tiny screwdrivers. Okay, that was like this. This is like this. It matches. So that should work. Why do I need to replace the screws? Screws are fine. Yeah, and she does go into she doesn't just go into the orthodox spaces. She does that on every YouTube channel. This is not an orthodox space. Hold on. For some reason, I feel like I'm not screwing this in straight. Okay, that's good. Now, uno mas. So this is broken. This goes over here. This goes back in the bag. Where did the bag go? This goes back in the bag. This is another bag. This bag. You're looking at it from the bottom or the top? Replace the screws. And then an A propeller. Oh, it's because we're looking at it from the bottom. That's why it's opposite. Okay, that makes sense. So this should have a little line on it. Yep, it does. Okay, cool. So this one goes here. And then I've got to practice. Now the problem is the tip broke off, so I can't match up the tips, but it should be the same facing as this one. There's a little orange symbol on the top with a hook. Should be the same as that one. Yep. Yep. Goes like that. Screw out. End cells. Here, I'll time her out for you guys. Just because she's calling people incels. No. Don't lose that screw. I did not know that this was a magnetic tipped screwdriver. Good to know. Okay. Now this goes this way. For some reason, I need new screws every time I do this, which is kind of dumb. I guess if you just don't crash it, you don't have to change the propellers that much. But if you crash it twice in a weekend, the one time was Avarice's fault. Gonna have to buy me a new drone. All right. Almost done. One more. Stop spinning. Damn it. Keep spinning on me. All right, right there. Stay. Okie dokie. I think that's good. Some of these wings are scratched up a little bit, but I'm going to let them go a little longer before I replace them. Should we test it in the room? There's no mop bucket in here. Celebrate song for the timeout. Okay. Shit.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz
I need
goggles
laid back
balls.
shelter. Everyone's losing their damn minds.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
Wow. She couldn't even wait 5 minutes. It's so tiny. Everything's so tiny. Where'd the other bag of screws go? I don't want to turn it on in the room because I'll probably break another wing. Quit going after my woman. What? That never happened. I would not do that. I could take it off in here, but the problem is when you're inside, you don't get satellite locked on. So when I take it outside and I turn it on and I look at the controller, I wait a little bit and it starts pinging satellites. The more satellites you have, the less likely you are to lose it. So some areas you can get 14 satellites. Some areas you get 2, 3, 7. But the Earth is flat, right? There's no such thing as satellites, right? Bro, I'm connected to satellites when I'm flying this piece. So, but in a room indoors, you can't connect to a satellite, so it doesn't hover properly. The way that it hovers is GPS locating. So if I turn it on outside and I'm connected to satellites, it'll just go up and it'll sit still. It won't move. And that's GPS keeping it still. If I turn it on inside, the reason why it landed in a mop bucket is because when you turn it inside, it won't hover in the same place. It like moves. It slowly like drifts around. And it makes it unpredictable. So if I turn it in here on here, even if I just want to see if it'll hover good, It won't. It'll start drifting around, and then if I clip a wall or something, I break another wing. So I'm not going to do that. We're not going to test it out inside. All right. Now, boom, 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 boom. Song's gonna be stuck in my head now, dude. I had a crazy dream last night that an old friend of mine, uh, me and my mom and my brothers were staying on a vacation at a giant mansion Airbnb, and for some reason, this guy that I used to do drugs with named TJ, was there. And as far as I know, TJ's got his life together now. He's off the drugs and stuff. But in the dream, it was the old TJ that I knew. And he threw a party with a bunch of scumbag drug junkies at the Airbnb with me and my mom and my little brothers, who aren't really little. They're bigger than me. but there was a bunch of them, and they're all these like scumbag type people. And in the dream, they're throwing the party, and I'm like, whatever, we're just gonna leave. And so I start gathering my stuff up, and I start noticing things are missing. My valuable things are missing, like drone's gone. And for some reason, I had all of my Dragon Ball Super cards with me. And which is not doesn't make any sense at all, because I have two 5,000 card boxes, which are about this big by this big, and they weigh probably 40 pounds each, two of them. Plus, I have probably 6,000 card boxes, and then probably like 800 card decorative boxes, all filled with cards. And then I have 4 full binders. So basically, I have a whole bookshelf out there and a whole closet in the other room of cards. And for some reason, I took all these cards on vacation with me, and these people stole them. And so I go to TJ, and I'm like, "Yo, did you steal my stuff? Your friend stole my stuff." And he's like, "Man, they did, but they've all got guns, and they said if you question, they're just gonna tell you to get the fuck out and pull their guns on you, and if you get rowdy, they will shoot you." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And so in the dream, I like go up to the ringleader of all these scumbags, and it's me and my two brothers. And of course, they pull their guns, and this confrontation happens in like the driveway of the house. And I'm yelling at the guy. I'm like, "Dude, head up fade, me versus you, or you pick two of your buddies, and me and my two brothers, we will whoop your fucking ass. Put the guns away. You outnumber us by like 15 people, and you've all got guns. Put your guns down and let's handle it." And they're like, "No," they're about to shoot at us. So me and my mom and my brothers run inside of the house, lock all the doors and windows, and these guys are banging, and we call the cops. And then that's when I woke up. And so when I wake up in the middle of a dream, I always have to it takes me a while to get back to sleep, because I always have to finish the dream in my wakeful mind. Um so the way I finish the dream is basically we call the cops show up, they go to jail, I go to dude's trial, and I just cuss him out. I'm like, "You're a fucking pussy. You're about to get raped by Big Bubba for the next 10 years. I'm going to write letters to all the guys in your prison and tell them that you're a pedo, and you're going to have the worst 5 years of your life. And when you get out, we're going to be waiting for you." And so it was a happy made up ending that I made to my dream. If I would have stayed sleeping, I don't know how it would have ended. Open Discord. Maybe in a little while. But yeah, guys, we're raising money for the Vegas trip. I can't say why I'm going to Vegas, but I'll just say I'm going. A little vacation. Not really a vacation, more of a never mind. It's only an hour and 20-minute plane flight. But shit. Oh yeah, go vote for Jay. That's what I'm looking for right now. So it aired 7 p.m. the night before last. So today at 7 p.m. is the end of the voting.
Interest in things like
I need to. Oh, that's what I needed to ask the guy. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna text him. I want to rewrite my intro. I did this like long intro thing, and I thought it was gonna be like an about me that they were gonna put next to my picture and some of the promo material or something. I didn't know it was the debate introduction, and mine was way too long, so she only reads like a third of it. So I want to rewrite a more succinct version that focuses on my YouTube channel now, not like my life story. I thought they wanted like a bio of my life. And so what I need to write is a promo stinger. Instead of I gave them like a paragraph long life story. And then that's what Erudite is reading here. And I was like, oh, shoot. I should have known that was what this was for, but I just need like a quick, short stinger intro. And I'm going to ask him, hey, can I redo my intro stinger and just send you like a shorter summary of what I do on my channel just to plug my channel? What's her name? Whose name? Oh, the girl in Vegas? I don't know, probably like Desiree or Starlight or Luna. I don't know. Caramel, Delicious. I don't know. Some sort of stripper name. I'm just kidding. Alicia's here. She's going like, trip canceled. Jess is no, I'm just kidding. I don't like strip clubs. I've never liked strip. I've only been in one strip club in my life, and I didn't like it. It was on my 18th birthday. I didn't pay for I didn't give a stripper a single dime. I sat at the bar and I drank. That was it. I don't do strip club. And then one time I went to a strip club after party, a house party after the strip clubs closed. This was in, where was this? Birmingham, Alabama. Is this in Birmingham? I've talked about this before. Pretty sure this was in Birmingham, Alabama. I think so. But anyway, when I was doing the door-to-door sales job, we knocked on this door, sold the people some magazines, and then we're like, hey, what's there fun to do around here? Like, we're only in town for a couple weeks. We don't know the area. And they're like, we go to a party every Saturday night, a house party, and you guys can come if you want. I'm like, okay, sure. It's a house party. What kind of house party? He's like, it's a trap house strip club after party. So after the strip clubs close, everybody goes to this house and they turn the house into a bar and strip club. And so you bring your own bottle, you give them your bottle at the door. They put your bottle in the kitchen. You pay a bottle, what do they call it? A corking fee or whatever. And then, so you pay them one time to hold your bottle and to serve it for you. So you're not just walking around with a bottle of liquor in your hand. But they put it in the kitchen, and then there's some girls in the kitchen, and you go and you say, "Hey, I brought the," and then they write your name on the bottle. You're like, "Hey, I brought the, I brought the Jameson, I brought the Jack, whatever. Give me a cup," and then they just pour your cup all night. You pay them like a $20 one-time fee. But then the living room, there was all the couches and chairs were put against the walls, and there were strippers in the middle of the living room, and they were black. It was dark strippers. It was like big old strippers. And that was the first time I ever got a lap dance. And it's the last time I ever got a paid lap dance. I didn't pay for it. My friend, he's like, "You want a lap dance?" And I was like, "Not really. None of these women." I mean, no offense to the people who like the chocolate, but I'm more of a white chocolate type of guy. And and they were all very dark strippers. And I was like, "I don't really want a lap dance." He's like, "Come on, you never had a," and I said, "I never even had a lap dance. I don't really care." And he's like, "You never had a lap dance? I'm getting you one." And I was like, "Okay, all right, whatever." Dude, I go sit down in the lap dance chair in the middle of the living room because he pays the guy. He says he wants a lap dance. Well, I don't know if this was planned or what. If my friend set me up or if it was just random which one would come to you. But the biggest girl, man, she was her name was either her name was Nutritious. She wasn't, there was Suspicious over there, Delicious over there, and Nutritious is the one that I got. I said, "I think there's been a mistake." And she said, "Did you say steak?" She was a big old girl, big old black girl. Only time I've ever got a paid lap dance. And I didn't pay for it again. And I didn't enjoy it. I did not like it one bit. She was very aggressive, heavy, large, cellulite, black. Not that that's the worst part. There are some beautiful black ladies, but she was not one of them. Yeah, I think her name was Nutritious. Just got back from a meeting. Is JS telling a family reunion story? No. I'm telling about why there will be no strip club action in Vegas. JS probably make more money if you get a Bam Maryland fund. Play it. Oh, God. $10 for a vanilla lap dance. With inflation, I don't know if that's enough. Actually, that's British money, so that might be enough. She black. Sounds like Wendover. I do go to Wendover, or I have been to Wendover. We have what's called the Fun Bus here in Salt Lake City, and the Fun Bus does a trip to Wendover and back every day. And you can get on the Fun Bus. Usually a bunch of old people. They do like bingo on the Fun Bus. It's fun. And you go down to Wendover, gamble for like 6 hours, get back on the bus and come back. My ex-wife used to work for that company. Her dad was one of the drivers and she was one of the hostesses on the bus. So I could get free trips to Wendover, and she didn't have to work. She worked on the bus. So we could go to Wendover and me and her could hang out, and then, but she would work while she was on the bus and get tips and stuff. And that's pretty cool. That's Wendover. Wendover's just outside of Utah. It's closer than Vegas, but Vegas isn't even like all the little gambling towns, Mesquite, Wendover, Vegas. They're all within 4 hours from me. Ex-wife, what the? Well, you know. Oh, I gotta play the song again. Fuck.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles
Oh, whoops. Just got the balls. 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 Now this is fundraising. Just got the balls. Just got the balls. Just got the balls. What's up, Avarice? Let me read his comment. At Coco Shuko Papa Shango. People say I don't sleep, but I'm convinced that you may have me beat in insomnia, tinnitus. You're everywhere I go. I'm trying not to yell super loud. My neighbors could be like, what the hell is he screaming all the time for? Well, that's what you got to do when you're reading Avarice comments. He's got caps lock permanently. It's like literally caps locked. He can't even unlock it. He has no key. Well, it's noon. Okay. So this is Erudite. This is the debate. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll play my opening. It's fire, as usual.
Camping, survival, and outdoor gear reviews. Over the years, he moved into streaming by starting a weekly news, politics, and current event show called The Dreaded Conservative, where he recently celebrated his 200th episode. Congratulations, JS.
Let's go.
On the 200th episode. We're going to be starting our opening segments with JS and followed by Haji. JS.
Dude, I hate when people make me into an AI guy. Like, I sent this to my mom and my brothers, and my brother's like, it was a group message between me and my two brothers and my mom, and Jub didn't know what the freaking Jub didn't know that Mama Duke was in the group chat, and he was cussing, and my mom was like, "Hey, watch your mouth." But he said, "You're fucking swollen that pic." He said, put in your hand under the arm. Did they tell you to do that to make your biceps look bigger? And I was like, no, that's AI, dude. And he's like, oh, I thought it might be AI, but it is AI, and it's uncanny. It looks like me. It's from a picture of me, and I am swole, but it's just something off about it, and I don't like them. But whatever, that's how people do things now.
You have 5 minutes for your opening. Take it away.
We all have to yell now.
I want to start by explaining my understanding of therapy culture. I'm not talking about all therapy ever, but the normalization and popularization of therapy far past the level of destigmatization. According to the American Journal of Psychiatry, the number of adults in therapy rose from 6.5% to 8.5% between 2018 and 2021. As of 2026, 27% of Americans are currently in outpatient care. 15% see a therapist on an ongoing basis, and 62% have consulted a therapist at some point. You would think with such an increase in people engaged in therapy, more access to therapists, and new psychotropic medication.
This is called the therapy prevalence paradox. As more and more therapists and more therapies and therapy culture becomes more popular, we see more and more mental illness. If cancer treatments become more effective and more broadly used and more accessible, the amounts of people dying of cancer will reduce. If any sort of treatment for any disease or any illness becomes more available, more widely used, more popularized, more access to it, then the prevalence of the illness always reduces. Always. That's how it works. Otherwise, your treatment is not effective, you need to find a better treatment. If vaccines increased the amount of whatever they're supposed to be vaccinating against, you wouldn't have that vaccine on the market. Mental illness, which isn't a real thing, it's a dumb fake word that they use to scare people into going to therapy. You can't have an illness of the mind. You could have a physical neurological defect in your brain, but there's no such thing as mental illness. And psychologists and psychiatrists have written books about this. So, about how even in the psychological industrial complex, they all know that it's not really a mental illness. If it was an illness, we'd get a medicine that could cure it. They don't have a medicine that can cure it. There's no medicine that cures depression. There's a medicine that makes you feel better for a little while because it numbs you. But as soon as you gain a tolerance, you need a different medicine or a higher dosage. If you stop taking those medications, it could be catastrophic. You end up shooting up a school. So they're not curing mental illness because it's actually a spiritual malady. It's not a mental illness. But anyway, the treatment prevalence paradox. And when I ask him about it, his answer is the answer they always give. So you always have to be prepared for this. If you ask somebody, how do you resolve the treatment prevalence paradox? The answer is always going to be, and you'll get this, an example of this that we see all the time is in the trans debate. You say, why are we seeing an increase in transgender stuff? We've destigmatized it. The suicide rates aren't going down. They're getting worse. And we're seeing more and more people becoming trans as time goes by. They'll say the same thing about the treatment prevalence paradox. They'll say, well, it's just less stigmatized now. More people are coming out and addressing it. More people are facing it. Therapists are getting better. That's why we're seeing, they're getting better at identifying problems. That's why we're seeing new mental illnesses pop up all the time. And we're able to identify them better. And the stigma of going to therapy has gone down. More people are going to therapy. That's why it seems like there's more mental illness. But that's, I responded to that argument with the simple thing, why don't we see this increase in adults? It's in children. If it's a stigma thing, more adults are going to therapy too, but we're not seeing this increase in mental illness in adults. If it was just among adults, it would stay around an average number. Even if more people go to therapy, your average wouldn't change. But with therapy culture in schools and with parents who have been over therapized their whole life, and schools pushing it, the per capita of mental illness among children is skyrocketing. But it's not skyrocketing with adults. It's saying pretty much level. There's more people going to therapy, so there's more mental illness, but the per capita rate stays about the same. But with kids, the numbers going off the charts. It's because it's cool to have a mental illness now. That's therapy culture.
Being released daily, we would see a decrease in mental illness. Instead, we see the contrary. We see an explosion of mental illness. Therapy culture is when we see more therapeutic intervention than any previous generation with seemingly no benefit. Schools with guidance counselors engaged in trauma-informed care, around 40% of kids receiving therapy, and phone call, Zoom, and even text message therapy corps like BetterHelp.
Text message therapy. It's a real thing. Yeah.
Running ads every 5 minutes on every social media platform. It's when we see a change in language with people overusing words like boundaries, vulnerability, emotional availability, toxic, and even cope.
Cope. I had to drop that one in there because I thought that was a funny shot at all you guys who overuse the word cope. You sound like liberal therapists when you do that. Just saying. That's a therapy word. That's a psychology word.
And lastly, a rise in constant self-diagnosis and false diagnosis of others from unqualified people who saw a therapist on YouTube. All of these are examples of therapy culture in action. What I mean by weakness is pretty self-explanatory. It's the
so I defined weakness as the opposite of strength, and then I just defined strength. This is like a mental trick that I'm trying to do here. It's I know Marilyn's gonna, oh my God, he's talking about The Secret. It's laws of attraction. Yeah, it's speaking in positive language rather than saying, man, I hope it doesn't rain today. You say, I know it's going to be a nice day today, or I can't wait for a good day today. Positive speaking and positive thinking has a better positive outlook on you. So rather than focus on weakness, I focus on strength and making people stronger. And then weakness. So I define strength here, but weakness, I say, is just the opposite of strength. And so then Erudite's like, in the question and answer part, because I don't think I'm going to play this whole thing, but in the question and answer part, she's like, you define strength, but you didn't really define weakness. So how would you define weakness? And the guy that my opponent, he answered for me the right answer. He said strength is ability to overcome weakness, or strength is ability to overcome obstacles. Weakness would be the inability to overcome obstacles. And I was like, yeah, exactly. So you can define a word by defining its opposite. It's just a little rhetoric trick.
Opposite of strength, which I would define as the ability to endure or overcome obstacles or challenges. If I want to increase my strength in the gym, I have to show up and put work in. I can't just ruminate on my past failures and talk about it with a stranger to increase my bench to 250 pounds. This analogy uses physical example.
And now somebody critiquing this might be like, that's a stupid analogy. You're comparing physical and mental. Oh, so you're saying mental is metaphysical? So there's no such thing as a mental illness. Thanks. You just proved my point. No, they have to concede that it is a physical problem in your brain. And then you say, well, the brain's a muscle. Why don't you do physical things to strengthen your serotonin? You can't just think on it. You can't ruminate on it. Rumination is an important thing. I keep reusing that word because it's a huge flaw with therapy and therapy culture, and by proxy, therapy culture. Rumination is not good.
Examples, but I believe it also applies to mental and spiritual strength and weaknesses. Now I want to lay out some of the dangers of therapy before I demonstrate how these dangers and therapy culture in general are making us weaker as a whole. Currently, 5 to 20% of people in therapy experience iatrogenic harm or negative effects from therapy. As the
iatrogenic, I forget the Latin that it comes from, but iatrogenic means harm from the healer, or it comes from like a Latin word that means harm from the healer. Or there's countless examples of iatrogenic harm. If a doctor medical malpractice would be iatrogenic harm. But later on, I'm going to say, I say, if you get a cut, you don't want to go to the doctor for it. You want to just put a Band-Aid on it. You don't want to go to the doctor. And then the guy responds, he thinks I'm just making another analogy, like the weightlifting analogy. He's like, that's like what you said with the weightlifting. It's a physical thing, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he understood. I was explaining what iatrogenic harm is. If you just simply, cut your finger, you don't want to go to a hospital with a cut finger, because the chances of that cut getting infected, if you just put a Band-Aid on it, you put some freaking rubbing alcohol and a Band-Aid, your chances of iatrogenic harm are near zero. I mean, I guess you could, I don't know, you could slip while you're putting the Band-Aid on and fall over something. I don't know, but chances are you're not going to have harm from the healer if you just clean it and put a Band-Aid on it. But if you take that little cut finger and you go into a hospital, your chances of getting an infection just skyrocketed because hospitals increase. You have a higher chance of getting an infection if you go into a hospital. You have a higher chance of catching some sort of sickness or any sort of thing when you go to a hospital. So treating the sick, or I mean, excuse me, treating the healthy is never smart. The treatment can cause more harm to the healthy patient than if they hadn't have gone in the first place. So you don't treat the healthy. If you're healthy and you got a little bit of the sniffles or something, you don't go to the doctor, because as soon as you go into that doctor's office, you've just increased your chance that some other problem is going to arise from that sickness than if you would have just dealt with it. Now, that's not saying that you can never go to a doctor. Of course, if you have a freaking broken arm, your arm's hanging on by a flap of skin, yes, you want to go to the doctor. The scales of iatrogenesis versus healing the wound, you definitely healing the wound outweighs the chances that you're going to catch an infection or something from the doctor from the hospital. But if you have a little thing, then the scales outweigh to where you don't want to go to the hospital for a little thing, because you're taking a bigger risk that you're going to have some bigger problem if you go to the hospital. So that's what iatrogenesis is, or iatrogenic harm. And that's one of the key points. That's the point I was making later, but I don't think he picked up on what I was explaining.
Number of people in therapy rises and the bar for becoming a therapist lowers, the chances of iatrogenesis will continue to increase. A drug with a 5 to 20% failure rate will never be approved. So why is therapy culture normalized? Some of the common dangers of therapy include therapy dependence, symptom exacerbation, trauma resurgence, and alienation of spouses and parents. There's also a serious danger that comes from treating the healthy. When therapy becomes fashionable or trendy, healthy people engage in it and become more likely to develop weaknesses that were non-existent previously. My last, and I would argue most dangerous repercussion from therapy is the likelihood that it eventually will lead to medicating the patient. Psychology is a stepping stone to psychiatry and psychotropic medication. A highly medicated society is part of therapy culture. Overprescription of ADD and ADHD medications like Ritalin and Adderall.
He challenges me on this, what I'm saying right here on this claim, and I didn't have I had a whole list of studies and things, all these numbers that I said. I had all the studies pulled up. I had all the stuff. This comment, I've talked about this ad nauseum for years. It really pisses me off what they did to young boys with ADHD medication, overprescribed ADHD medication. It's a big issue of mine. I don't like it. And my OBS just disconnected. Are we good? Did it freeze up? I don't know why it does that sometimes. Are we good? We should be good now. Anyway, he said, do you have any study or anything that shows that they were over prescribing Ritalin to kids? I'm like, no, I don't have anything on me right now, but I don't know if this is really what you want to challenge. We don't have time to have a Google party right now, and I don't have it in my files on hand. And also, I'll have 20 tabs of my research every time I debate. At least 20 tabs are open, but I never look at them. It's just in case if somebody asks me for like a source, I can go through and I can pick it out and I can tell them where the source is from. But usually, I never have to look at my folder, even though it's open on my screen. I never have to go through it. That's what preparation is for. So I don't actually use it's just there in case I need it, but I usually don't need it. But then when he asked me for a source on this overprescribing ADHD medication, I didn't have that one on hand. But on Saturday during the stream, because Freddie, I think somebody challenged me on this. It was Freddie. It took me 5 seconds to pull it up. But I'm not going to do that in a 1 hour debate where it's broken into segments. We only have 15 minutes. I'm not going to start Googling and looking up stuff during debate. Unless it's a long form debate like the moon landing debate me and Easy did. In a debate like that, where it's just me and another person talking for hours about a topic, then that's when you're going to compare sources, you're going to look into stuff, pull up things, share screen, all that stuff. But in a debate like this, you can't I'm not going to start Googling in the middle of a 1 hour debate. But it is true. It did happen. It was massively reported on. And now I think that they're overprescribing SSRIs. I don't think they've done a study on that, but in 10 years they will. Bet.
In the past has been proven. And I believe we currently are in an SSRI overprescription crisis as a result of therapy culture.
I'm muted? What do you mean I'm muted? I'm not muted. I see my thing going. Source. That was going to be one of my critiques. Yes, we all know it happened, but obviously common sense ain't common anymore. So that looked a little bad on you for a split second. Yeah, I know. I knew right after the debate was over, I knew that was my biggest mistake, was not being able to shoot something out real quick. When he asked me that, I should have been able to say, well, there was this study. I should have been able to rattle them off. I knew that was the biggest error that I made. But regardless, to the audience, I mean, I guess if you're uninformed on the topic, it looks like he got me on that one and I was just making a baseless claim. But if anybody knows anything about this, and I think this is Sam Tripoli, there's a lot of right-wing guys, there's a lot of conspiracy guys watching this. I think all of a large percentage of the audience who saw that, as soon as I said that, they were like, yep, that's some bullshit. You're right, JS. And then when he said, do you have a source for that? And I was like, no, I don't have a source. Then all the people were probably like, this fucking guy doesn't know that this happened. The other guy. Everybody was probably like, of course this happened. So, it's only an L for the people who are in denial and don't have common sense. Yeah, you're right, King. Everybody vote for Rowan against Erudite's husband. I'm not going to say to do that. Actually, I already voted and I did vote for him because I think he did better. But yeah, that would make it a little easier because I'm worried that he has a big lefty following, Erudite's husband, Nick. I'm a little worried about how big his following is, and I'm not like mad about it or anything, but it is a little. I could see some people complaining that one of the moderator's husbands is in the competition, but I don't think it's a big deal. But it is just a little. It's a little,
An example of this would be Lexapro being approved for 7-year-olds in 2023.
That's fucking crazy. I didn't even know that until I was researching for this. I found out about that. That's crazy. Lexapro is a very powerful SSRI for 7-year-olds.
With these risks in mind, I want to finish by elaborating on the way these dangers translate into a weakened society as a whole. A lot of these factors are obvious, like exacerbated symptoms of depression or anxiety as a result of therapy. Therapy dependence leads to a mentally weakened society due to constant rumination on the past and a focus on trauma, whether real or fabricated. These people are not healed, but rather turned into lifelong patients. A healed patient is a patient lost. Therapists have a financial incentive to keep patients coming back. Medications like SSRIs for depression become a crutch and can lead to a cycle of addiction, when we know the best cure for depression would be exercise, sunlight, social interactions, and relationship building, all of which actually make us stronger.
I tried to kind of stay away from the religious stuff. Like, you guys know, in my opinion, this is all a spiritual battle. And the best cure for your depression is to find Jesus. But as Tyson James said, and I said it in this debate, I was quoting Tyson James from the song Beta. What's he say? You point him to a therapist, I point him to the cross, or something like that. Beta. What's he say? I'm tired of these heretics. I point him to the cross, you point him to a therapist. You don't point him to the cross, you point him to a therapist.
Are you feminine? Do you see yourself as a feminine man?
Some things, yeah.
Oh, yeah, some
I
things
think
like...
femininity is beautiful, and anybody can be feminine.
You think a man is beautiful when he's feminine?
In certain ways.
No, a feminine man is a weak man because
He's a woman. He's a beta.
No, he's not, Jesse.
Yeah, he's a beta.
No, he's not.
He is a beta.
I can't believe I'm being bullied right now.
All these women out here looking for a strong man. Why you falling for the lie, man? I am gon' stand. You've been dating women like your mama. Switch the program. 35 and single, trying to mingle. You a no man. You need to forgive to be forgiven. Go back to your father. Get to living. Forget about the kissing, all the touching in the city. Forget about the women, all the lust, and who you kidding? A man that has a temper ain't even a man at all. You can't be a tyrant in farm animals, but somehow it's okay when it's your kid, man. That is laughable. It's capital murder when you snuff another life. You're headed for the burner if you don't return to Christ. Obama was a beta male, he gave you fake rights. Every time I see that face, I wanna break and take flight. Okay, let me calm down. Let's get to rule 2. Never search for a woman, she will find you. No sex before marriage. Take time and just date her. If not, she will turn you to a beta. Preaching now that Jesus, that's a beta, no comparison. You don't point him to the cross, you point him to a therapist. Penny pinching, pimping out the gospel for $1.
You don't point him to the cross, you point him to a therapist.
My primary focus in this debate will be the therapy culture being pushed on children in homes and schools. But those children are becoming weak adults in the grips of emotional hypochondriasis. Programs like Obama's Restorative Justice Plan, social emotional learning, the ACE study, and other psychology and therapy inspired systems are and have been weakening and destroying children for generations now. And I don't see therapy culture losing steam anytime soon. With that, I'll see.
Awesome. Right on the dot. Well done. 5 minutes exactly. Haji, you have 5 minutes as well. Go ahead.
Okay. I take the negation. I feel like therapy culture has not made society weaker. At its core, I think the affirmative argument depends on a very definition of strength. He said overcoming obstacles. I feel like he's narrowing down the definition without taking into account external factors. They assume that strength means handling every problem alone.
So I already knew all the arguments he was going to make beforehand. It's actually social media. It's cell phones. This was and I talked about this in the debate. Abigail Schreier writes about this in the book Bad Therapy. How when cell phones first started coming out and kids first started getting their hands on cell phones and smartphones, the whole psychological industrial complex were like, this is not good. This is going to be bad for kids. But they didn't do anything to stop it. They're the ones who could have stopped it. Instead, they said, let's just let them have the cell phones and then we can do more therapy with them. We know the cell phones are going to cause problems for them. Let them have the cell phones. We're not going to put out any warning on social media or cell phones. We could. The American Psychological Association would be the ones who would handle this. They could have said, we need to warn all these parents. We need to warn all these schools. No cell phones at school. Tell parents no cell phones for kids until they're like 14. No social media till you're 16. The American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, they are the ones who could have done something about this early on. And they knew the cell phones and the social media was going to be harmful to children, but they let it happen because they can get more money if kids need to go to therapy because they're screwed up from their cell phones and their social media. So their only argument is it's not actually therapy that's causing the problem. It's the cell phones and the social media that's causing the problem. Well, therapy could have stopped that, but they didn't because they wanted to therapize the kids.
Pressing emotions, never seeking help, but that is not how resilience is defined. The way that I define strength is going to be more resilience-based. Resilience is
rattling cages and making waves in these streets. Fancy schmancy words. Well, we're talking about psychology. You got to try to sound smart. But hypochondriasis is like a hypochondriac. It means you think everything's a problem. You think you're sick for every reason. I forget how Abigail Schreier described it. Hypochondriasis is not I can't remember what she said. Hypochondriacs, people who think they're sick all the time. It's not that they have a weaker immune system or anything like that. It's just that they're not able to deal with discomfort properly. And that's because we have a weakened society. And rather than overcoming, I have anxiety, I have depression, I'm bipolar or whatever. Bipolar. Sometimes I'm happy and sometimes I'm mad. I'm bipolar. Shut up. It's so stupid. Anyway, so rather than addressing these problems, emotional hypochondriasis is like the person who thinks they're sick all the time and they always have to go to the doctor. But instead, you think that there's something wrong with you mentally all the time, so you have to keep going to a therapist. And every time you go to the therapist, it's for a new medication. This is why I know people who are on 10 different psychotropic medications. It's like, hey, happy Thursday, Marshall. Who the heck is that? Oh. Yeah. Hey, Johnny Pidarosa. Pidarosa. It's not good YouTube etiquette to go onto a channel and start promoting other channels to people in the chat. That's probably a stupid thing to do.
space as the ability.
Be like if you had like a restaurant and I went into your restaurant and I was like, guys, you know that next door they just opened a new burger joint and the burgers are fire. You should go check it out. I would ban you from my restaurant.
To adapt and to adversity and continue functioning effectively despite challenges. By that definition, therapy culture does not make people weaker.
But I won't ban you. We won't ban you. It's just a warning.
It gives people to become more resilient and therefore stronger. The affirmative may argue that psychology is a pseudoscience, even if they spend most of their speech making that case.
Okay, I kind of feel bad about this because on the call when we were discussing the prompt and we were talking about therapy, I said I've debated before about psychology and therapy and how it's ineffective and it's a pseudoscience. So maybe in the debate we can kind of go down that road. And then I had a week until the debate and I was doing my prep. And when I wrote my opening, I didn't include anything about psychology being a pseudoscience. And I think he prepared for what I had said on the phone. And so that's why he's talking about my opponent may say psychology is a pseudoscience, but I never said that, and I never say it in the debate. But he was preparing for it was just ideas that I was throwing out. I was like, yeah, in the past I've debated psychology. I think psychology is a pseudoscience. I'm anti-psychology, anti-psychiatry, and we can debate on that. Maybe we can go down that path a little bit. And so he prepared for me to make those arguments, but those arguments didn't really fit in with the prompt. So I didn't even say that in the debate or in my opening. And he is talking about it in his opening because of the private conversation we had on the phone. I wasn't intentionally trying to misdirect him. But that's why if anybody is watching him and is like, why is he arguing a straw man? JS never said anything about psychology being a pseudoscience. I did say that I believed that when I was on the phone with him. And that's why he put that in his opening. So, I kind of was like, oh shit, man, I wasn't even really, when on the phone, before, it was just like, these are things I've debated about before. This is what I believe, blah, blah, blah. But we'll do the topic, therapy culture is making people weaker. And then throughout the week, as I was prepping and I was writing my opening and stuff, I didn't end up making those arguments. And he's not really arguing a straw man. But if you don't know what I just said, you would think that he's just arguing something I never said. But I kind of felt a little bad for that.
Is not prove the resolution. The question is not whether every single instance of use of like psychology is useful, but rather if the overall use of therapy in our modern day culture is going to be.
And this is why I just conceded, because there is an argument to be made that behavioral cognitive therapy is effective for extreme cases of like just people that are totally whacked out. I don't know, they're traumatized, their parents left them. It could be helpful to sit that person down and just listen to them. Just talk to them like a human being and listen to them and let them talk. There are some benefits to that in extreme cases. So given this point, I'm like, yes, in some extreme cases, I'll agree. In some extreme cases, therapy can be effective. Specific types of therapy. But that's not what therapy culture is. Nobody at BetterHelp is licensed to do, I won't say nobody, but the people that you're talking to at BetterHelp, if you're texting, it's probably an AI. If you're on the phone with them, these people, I guarantee the vast majority of them have no training in behavioral cognitive therapy. And definitely guidance counselors, and teachers and the parents and their friends who are self-diagnosing them and, say, oh, this is what you got to do. And, oh, you need to, they watch TikTok and they learn how to do therapy. That is not somebody trained in behavioral cognitive therapy. Affirmation therapy is abomination. Yeah. Well, and I mentioned it at one point in the debate, but the whole trans stuff in therapy is disgusting. It's fucking evil. And I mention it in the debate, and he rolls his eyes. As soon as I bring up, I'm like, the gender stuff and the trans thing, and they're affirming these kids' genders and telling them their parents are wrong. When I started bringing up transgender stuff and gender stuff, he rolled his eyes. He was like, oh God, here we go. Are we about to go down this road? Yeah, I don't think he wanted to go down that road because there's no justifying that. It's evil. It's pure evil what they're doing to kids with the gender crap. And that's therapy culture. But I do mention it in the debate, but I didn't dwell on it. This thing goes quick. It goes by quick.
It's going to make people weaker or stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
Even on the point when it comes to psychology being pseudoscience, that claim still fails because psychology uses the standard things that every other hard science uses.
Freddie, don't try to say smart stuff. Black people don't go to therapy. Shut up.
which is randomized control styles, statistical analysis, peer review, and studies being replicated. The replication crisis is not evidence. It is a pseudoscience. It is evidence of science working.
No, it's not. What do you mean? The replication crisis is called the replication crisis for a reason. That is not an example of science working. It's not science. It's pseudoscience. It's not real science. See, he was anticipating me to come from a totally different angle, and that's because of what I said to him on the phone, but I ended up not going down that path. But yeah, like I was like, this is something I've debated before, and this is what I believe. But the topic was therapy culture is making us weaker. And I feel like he prepared for me doing a different debate. Like the debate I had with James, basically. Mental illness is a myth. Mental illness isn't real. Psychology is a pseudoscience. Like he was prepared for that debate, which is a similar debate, but kind of different. And also what he just said is totally wrong. The replication crisis is a problem. It's a crisis. It proves that any sort of mental thought science cannot be a science because it's not observable, demonstrable, and replicatable. Because everybody's brain, everybody's thoughts and consciousness is different. It's a metaphysical aspect that you can't physically explore it. Now you could do neuropathy, like you could do a brain scan and somebody is missing a chunk of their brain. Yeah, they're going to be different because that's a physical defect in their brain. But like depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia is a tough one. I think there is some sort of, I don't know. I haven't looked deep enough into specifically schizophrenia. If schizophrenia is scary, I think there could be a physical defect in your brain. I don't think they found it yet. Or it could be demon possession. That's what I think it is. I don't think they found any physical, scannable, demonstrable thing that shows like we can just put somebody in a CAT scan machine, take them out and say, yep, schizophrenia. I'm pretty sure that they can't do that. I've had, let's not do this, Shazzy. You should know by now that every time you put that in my chat, you know, I've already been over this, but as I'm sitting here telling you that mental illness isn't real, and then I know people say, well, I've had PTSD since I was 5 years old. And then I'm going to say probably something that's going to hurt your feelings. So maybe, you know, I don't know, but message for thank you. Thank you. I don't want to say nothing mean, but I don't believe in that. Yes, I know. I'm going to piss everybody off with PTSD. They're going to start freaking having a, what's it called? They're going to get triggered. What's it called? An episode or a flashback or something? Let it be. Okay. Every time this happens every time. And I like Shazzy, but I disagree with her on this.
You might hear the opposition mention people like Sigmund Freud or other outdated processes that were used during the quote unquote like invention of psychology, but these have all been advanced throughout time. The most researched type of form of psychotherapy is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT that people might call it as well.
Have I been saying behavioral cognitive therapy this whole time? I'm dyslexic. Just kidding. That's not real. I'm just dumb.
But does not teach people discomfort.
No, I think dyslexia is not a mental illness. I think dyslexia is actually like a thing, like like you flip words and your brain flips words. I don't know. I think half the people that say they're dyslexic are just dumb, but there might be a real dyslexia. I don't know.
It teaches people the opposite. It teaches people to challenge irrational thoughts, confront fears, and take constructive actions even when it is difficult. If someone suffers from
I was in a car accident and 4 people died. I watched my friend die about 10 feet from me. I thought I was paralyzed because I couldn't move. I was laying on the ground in the dirt, and I looked to there was 11 people in the car, and I'm laying flat on the ground. I can't move, and I see Rosa crying on the hill. I see Nikki and Keely are over there. Actually, yeah, Keely was there. Nikki and Keely are over there crying. I don't see Zach. I don't see Suge. I don't see a bunch of people. I'm looking around. I don't know where they're at, but I see Chris, and Chris is screaming and covered in blood, and he's just freaking out. And I'm like, what? Why is he freaking out? And then when the ambulance gets there, they have to hold Chris down, and he's screaming and he's fighting the medics. Well, that's because he was dying. I don't know what he was seeing. It's kind of scary to think about what he was seeing or what was happening in his mind, but he had no understanding of reality. It's like he was fighting off spirits or something. He was trying to fight the medics, and then he died. And for a while after that, I've been in 2 rollover accidents. The first one, nobody died, but a girl did have like traumatic head damage, and she was screwed up for a long time, for I guess forever after that. I don't know. We went to a party at our house a couple years later. She seemed all right, but she was definitely different after that. And then the other roll accident where 4 people died. And so anyway, to this day, if I see a movie and there's a rollover accident, I kind of cringe a little bit. I'm like, ugh, and I get a little bit uncomfortable. Is that my PTSD being triggered? Or is that just a response to something bad that happened that's natural? It's a survival thing. If you were in a war and you heard a lot of loud booms and people were dying all around you, and then when you go out and you hear a loud boom and you get in defense mode, that's survival instinct. That's a learned reaction from a situation you were in. That's not a disorder. That is in order. That is not a defect. That is the order of things. That's how things work. That's how the world works. That's how life works. If you've seen 20 people get their arms cut off by chainsaws, you might be a little cautious around a chainsaw. Good. You won't get your arm cut off. There's no disorder to that. Think about the word, Freddie. After bad thing, stress reaction. After bad thing, stress reaction. You know why we don't call it that? Because that sounds dumb. What are you talking about? I had a truck for 2 years, not that long ago, dummy. I had a van. I've got videos in my van. You're a retard.
anxiety, for example, CBT often uses exposure techniques that require them to face what they fear, then avoid it. That's one instance. If someone suffers from depression, CBT often requires behavioral activation, meaning they must get up, engage with life, take positive actions before they feel motivated to do so. And this mentions what he mentioned before, which is strengthening relationships, doing exercise, and other things in order to alleviate whatever problem may be causing them depression. I do not think that is fragility. I think that is called discipline.
Yeah, but the therapist doesn't teach you to do that, because they know if you go out and do that, you're not going to keep coming back to them. They want you to keep coming back. They're just going to talk about you and let you ruminate and then dig up some old traumas, fabricated traumas. That's a big thing that happens in therapy people don't know about, but there's fabricated trauma because they're trying to do trauma resurgence. So they want you remember your childhood, and we're going to figure out what your problem is. And it probably stems from your childhood, some sort of trauma. So let's find that trauma. Let's talk about it. What happened in your childhood? Maybe we can hypnotize you and get you to reveal those traumas. And what happens is they want you so bad to find that trauma that you'll invent traumas in your brain, or little things like your mom didn't buy you the toy that you wanted at the store and it made you cry. Oh, that's a trauma. You have trauma from that. You didn't feel accepted. Maybe you didn't feel good enough. Your mom didn't make you feel good enough. Your dad didn't make you feel good enough. That's why they wouldn't buy you that toy. And you buried that deep down inside of you. And now you have this rejection of authority figures because they didn't bend over backwards to help you get through whatever you were. It's fabricated traumas, and it's ridiculous.
And also a form of delayed gratification. And this is supported evidence. Law reviews, meta-analysis have found CBT to be effective across depression, anxiety disorders, PTSD, panic disorder, and social anxiety. A therapy culture where fundamentally making people weaker, the therapies at its center will not consistently help people become more functional and more capable of handling adversity by their outcomes. The affirmation might also argue that people today are more sensitive, that everyone calls everything trauma, or that therapy language is sometimes
it's never mind.
misused online, which I'm willing to concede. I do think that is true.
Yeah.
But the misuse is an idea of evidence against itself, as in people using these terms in everyday society is not evidence that those terms themselves are empty terms when they're generally actually diagnosed to people that actually have those specific diseases or
it's not a
whatever's
disease
going on with their life that makes them need therapy. People misuse like legal concepts like all the time, right? Does not necessarily mean that those legal terms are like empty terms when they're used standardly in legal practices.
This is why in medicine and in legal jargon, they use Latin words a lot. And these words all have a very strict meaning, and it always means the same thing. In medical language, you'll get some of the longest words in the English language, like pneumonia ultramicroscopic silicovolcaniconiosis. That is a very specific thing. It means something. The pneumonia means something. The ultra means something. The microscopic means small. Silicone, volcanic, and then coniosis. All of these parts of this word have a very specific meaning, and you put them together and you make a big giant word, but it means something very, very hyper specific. That's how medical language works. Psychology and therapy aren't a real science because they don't do that. It's just depression. Oh, and then the treatment's not working. Well, treatment-resistant depression. Well, I'm only depressed at Christmas time. Seasonal depression. Seasonal anxiety. Get yourself a pumpkin spice Xanax bar for seasonal depression. Test taking anxiety. I get anxious when I have to take a test. That's test taking anxiety. You're not an anxious person. You don't have anxiety. But when you're taking a test, you get anxiety. Test taking anxiety. We'll call it test taking. It's this retarded language to explain things. I went through a trauma, and afterwards, I have some sort of effect from that trauma. We'll call that post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a great. Oh my God.
In fact, one of the strongest evidence against this resolution comes from people whose success depends most on resilience. Elite athletes, military personnel, the top performers in every single domain all have designated psychologists or people that they seek therapy from in order to succeed in their specific domains. This happens in the NBA, this happens in the NFL, this happens for politicians, this happens ubiquitously all across all top-level professions.
And as far as physical therapy, we didn't get into this, but I think a lot of physical therapy, some of it, same with therapy, some of it's good, but a lot of it, like a chiropractor, that's a fake job. That's a fake job. You're a dang glorified masseuse. And when they pop your back and do all that weird stuff to your back, you become dependent on your chiropractor. Once you start going to the chiropractor, you better keep going to the chiropractor for the rest of your life. They'll make you feel real good for 2 days, and then it's going to hurt more. Now you got to go back to the chiropractor. Better to just deal with it. That would be a strong person. The weak person is dependent on the therapist. The strong person doesn't identify with their weaknesses. They acknowledge that they've overcome their weaknesses and that those things aren't real anymore. That's gone. That's in the past. It doesn't exist anymore. That's what that would be the strong thing to do. The weak thing is to identify with your weaknesses and with your past, with your depression, your anxiety, whatever it is, and then give into it and go submit yourself to repeated lifetime patient of some therapist. That's weak. Weaker.
And they're also, and they're also putting money into this, so it's proof that it's not.
I don't have timestamps,
sort of
but
they're teaching them to feel and hyper focus on their emotions, and then they become emotional hypochondriacs. Like a hypochondriac is someone who's hyper focused on their health. They're very alert about how they feel. It's not that they're weaker. It's not that they're crazy. It's that they're super focused on how they feel. And we're making these kids super focused on their emotions and a lot
on their weaknesses. Super focused on their weaknesses rather than overcoming them.
A lot of these counselors are not approved therapists. So there's a patient, a doctor-patient confidentiality issue here, because those teachers don't have that confidentiality when they're handing these surveys out to kids and asking them about their family. Sorry, I don't want to.
Yeah, no. Just real quick. Whenever there's a bully that bullies somebody else, do you agree that the cause of the bullying could be some sort of emotional distress or something going on in their life that's causing that, or do you think that people are just randomly bullying people because of random reasons that are not associated with emotion?
There's probably something going on in their life that's making them act the way they
Okay, and
act
do you agree
in general with everybody?
Okay, and do you agree that therefore to hyper focus on the emotional aspect is what you ought to do, given that you want to try to stop it from causing the bullying?
Yeah, but if it's not proving to have any good effects.
Okay,
like
so you agree that they're attempting to make the kids deal with emotion. You agree that they're attempting to do that at least, right?
Sure.
Okay.
No, the therapist. No, this is we're talking about bullies because I mentioned Obama's restorative justice plan, which was essentially black kids were getting expelled from school too much. They said it's racist. So Obama said, well, we're going to do this restorative justice plan. You're not allowed to expel minorities anymore when they are bullies or when they're beating kids up at school. So instead, they just keep the bully in the school, and then the bully is a victim, and the victim's a victim. Everybody's a victim. And we need to therapize all of them and keep them together. That'll help the problem. No, you need to kick that kid out of school. But Obama said, no, that's racist because all these black kids keep getting kicked out of school.
You're saying that the methodology that they're using are not proven to work?
They're not.
It works at making people weaker.
Okay. How do you take into account that these...
It works at making kids more dependent on therapists, eventually more dependent on medications, not listening to their parents, cutting off their parents.
What's the distinction between sports professionals or people that are top of the field using and paying therapists to do these things versus people that are children? What's the distinction there? But why do you think it works for, it seems like you're hyper focusing on kids because I think you acknowledge that it works for adults, Like,
No, I didn't. I didn't acknowledge that it works for adults. I said some therapy works in some extreme cases sometimes. I'm hyper focused on kids because the kids are the next generation who become the parents who do the same thing to their kids. And we're about 3 generations in now. So it's not just this generation of kids, it's the last generation of kids who are now parents raising, and these are over therapized kids who grow up to become parents, and then they over therapize their kids. And it compounds each generation, it gets worse and worse.
what is the difference between like
Lock
a child
'em
and a
up.
kid, or sorry, a child and an adult that makes it work for one but not the other when it comes to the methodology?
I don't think it works. I don't think it works for all adults. No healthy person would willingly go do physical therapy. They go to the gym, but from stories I've heard, physical therapy is hell, and people do not like physical therapy. It's rough. You're in pain. You have a serious injury or chronic illness, and you're trying to work through that. So you have to go there every day, and you have to practice. You have to put in the work. That would be analogous to therapy for people who have serious problems, like real problems. That's why I'm saying not all therapy is bad, and there are people with serious, mental illnesses, and therapy will help them.
Yeah, I never said it works for adults.
As
Gabe,
adults,
if the
but
bully doesn't have a huge
Get like a really concise, simple definition.
This is the
so
Q&A
audience-
part.
and because we both like the point of this debate is showing that therapy has made people weaker because more people are seeking therapy. It's just some sort of like modern thing. I think that's just ubiquitous across like all fields, like technology, like medicine, or like whatever. So
it is a modern thing, and that's the therapy culture we're talking about. But there is a lot more older people who are taking part in it too. It's there's ads and stuff on your phone all the time, and a lot of older people are getting involved in therapy, but we're not seeing this explosion in diagnosis with them. And the kids, you said kids are more likely to try things out. Kids aren't signing up for.
I understand your question. Okay, so I misunderstood. Yeah, that's because there's
There's a consent issue with kids too. A kid can't consent. There's a power differential, and I don't think I ever got to this. I never mentioned the consent or the power differential with kids and therapists. When a kid is alone with a therapist in an office, it's a kid and an adult. It's a kid who can't consent to be there. Their parents have made them go there, or the guidance counselor made them go there. So they have no choice. They have to be there. And then they have an adult telling them, well, I want you to tell me you need to open up with me. We need to talk about, well, let's find out how was your day today? And all this. And then the kid is backed into a corner, and it's like, I need to make this adult happy. I have to come in here every week. I'm being forced to come in here every week. And then I have to tell this adult what they want to hear. So there's a power differential and a consent issue with kids in therapy.
new issues that happen in our modern day world. Again, technology use is
Force traumas out of them. There's parental alienation, especially with the gender trans stuff going on. There's parental alienation. They'll tell them their parents are wrong, and we see this phenomenon.
Oh, I thought he rolled his eyes when I said that, but maybe I'm remembering another part.
On the chosen family phenomenon, where adult children are severing ties with their parents due to ideas that they've learned through this therapy culture that they don't owe their parents anything because they didn't choose to come in, like antinatalist ideas. They didn't choose to come into this world, so they don't owe their family. And the parental and spousal alienation is another huge problem from the therapy culture.
And you're weaker when you are alienated from your family.
have a traumatic experience. Would you rather relive it or like have it bring it back in the office with a therapist, someone that can help you deal with it, or in a situation where you're
While
out on
you're
the street by
driving down the
yourself
street?
and you're I guess just stressed? Would you rather re-experience relive the trauma next to a therapist or like by yourself?
A lot of these people don't even remember this alleged trauma. they go to therapy, and the therapist, like I said, fabricated traumas, made up traumas. They would never relive it unless they go to the therapist and the therapist helps them make it up.
I guess that's my question.
For showing up for the debate. That was fun. I don't feel like
I think my closing sucked here. I don't even remember what my closing was. I don't think it was very good. My closings are my weakest point.
the therapy prevalence issue was solved. I remain unconvinced that that therapy is actually stopping the mental health crisis. It seems to be inflating it. We have, like you said, more suicidality. We see programs in Canada like the MAID program where they're literally helping people commit suicide.
That was in my notes. It was a point I wanted to bring up in the debate, but it goes by so quick and I couldn't hit on all my points. Kind of not great to make an argument that you didn't make in the debate in your closing. I've heard other people do it before. I don't like it, but I just did it. But it was just because it was a point that I meant to make during the debate and I never got to it. So I just wanted to throw it out as a little one-off point in my closing. But yeah. Therapy in Canada is leading to people killing themselves. Is that making them stronger or weaker?
That's not helping society. The proliferation of the trans and gender ideologies is causing kids to separate from.
I think that's where he rolled his eyes, because you can't see his face right now, but I can see his face. And I think this part is where he rolled his eyes.
Their parents and creating reproductive dead ends in children. These are adults. This has been happening for like 50 years. It's been getting worse and worse. And I think we're getting to a boiling point where it's a big problem. We're now in like the second or third generation of this, where it's not just the kids, it's the parents who were the kids and the parents who were the kids being introduced into this and now teaching it to their kids. The kids who are over therapized becoming therapists now and over therapizing other kids. It's a big problem. I see more people on drugs. I see more addicts, more dependents, and more therapy. I know that therapy is not the only cause of this problem in society. It's a correlate. It's not the direct cause. There's a lot of things causing this, but it's one big part of the problem, and it's not doing what it can to help the other problems. There should be a black label on therapy that says this could come with dangers, and be careful with it around children, just like there should be one with cell phones and social media. These are all parts of the problem. I think our education system has been infected by a plague. Families are failing, relationships are crumbling, people are dying, and therapy isn't seeming to help. People teach their kids to value happiness and mental wellness over strength, resilience, human decency, and virtue. The solution for this, that's the problem. The solution for this, kids should go outside, play with their friends. Everybody's connected to the phone and to mom and dad and to the hyper focus on their feelings and their emotions and all the good things. We're not facing our fears and people don't know how to have relationships anymore. They don't know how to talk to strangers.
Not that kind of sounded bad. Not that kids should be talking to strangers. I'm just saying socialization, meeting a girl and, saying hi to her or having a conversation with I'm not talking about kids talking to strangers. That sounded a little weird.
Go out, get out of your comfort zone, do something that makes you uncomfortable, talk to somebody.
Therapized is a wild word. It's a real word. It's a word. Over therapized.
Build a tree house, like I said, face your fears, have conversations, read a book and learn something rather than going on TikTok and talking to your therapist about it. All of these are solutions. Exercise is the number one, not cure, but helper for depression or feeling depressed.
It's not a cure because depression isn't an illness. It can't be cured. It's a spiritual malady. And if you're depressed, I don't know, maybe work harder at work, make more money, go to the gym, get stronger, lose some weight, these things will fix your depression. Turns out your depression wasn't real. You were just comfortable and lazy. Comfortable laziness. That's what depression is. You can't be depressed when you got to hunt a freaking gazelle and there's lions trying to eat you in the Serengeti. None of these freaking African tribesmen are depressed.
Some exercise. All of these are perfectly reasonable solutions to these problems that do strengthen our society, but we're veering away from those to focus on therapy. And then again, I think religion and faith, I believe these are all.
Yes, therapized is a real word. It is the past tense form of the past participle of the verb therapize. And it is also used as an adjective. It's a real word, dude.
They're all spiritual ailments that they're not mental problems, they're spiritual problems. And I would point people to God, but that's all I got.
Awesome. All right, Haji, you have the last word. 5 minutes. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I agree with the latter point that he said, the last point. I agree that I think religion's important.
I did look it up just to make sure. I was like, damn, I hope I wasn't using a word that's not a real word. But it's a real word. I read it in a book. Okay, I knew it was a real word. You gaslit me, and I had to double check.
I think, believing, environment on Earth and having norms to have, I think it's a great thing.
It's just cured my depression.
I don't really write an outro or a conclusion, but I'm just going to kind of summarize what I thought, points that he didn't address during the debate. I think that the major thing is a correlation causation problem, because as society advances, there's new things, there's new technologies, there's new foods, there's new circumstances.
The prompt wasn't therapy culture is the only thing making people weaker, or therapy culture is the main cause of society becoming weaker. It was just therapy culture is making people weaker. I don't need to show a direct causation. I could say that it is a correlate that applies to the cause. It's not the primary one. I didn't have to argue that. So I didn't have to show that, therapy culture is the only thing or the worst thing making people weaker. Just that it is a problem.
And therefore, there's new problems that we need to be addressed. I think that, and there's lots of evidence, and my opponent agrees with me, for that has causal power.
988 is a useful tool. You can text with someone during times of stress. People having anxiety over asking for a to-go box. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to text a number and be like, "Guy, hey 988, I'm having a really rough day today. Can you talk to me about it over text?" That's weird. That's probably an AI. It's nice to know other people think therapy is not helping society. A lot of people think that, especially in these circles, like the circles I'm in. You go over to some lefty circles, no, they're not going to agree, but
for all the more people with depression, more people committing suicide in our society.
Yeah, agree, Kokomo.
He mentioned stuff like the trans ideology being part of it, but specifically the trans ideology.
Well, no, what I was saying is that therapy culture has led to crazy things with the new gender bender stuff. Yeah, that's a part of therapy culture that is really bad. Like if we would have just argued about that the whole time, maybe it would have been bad faith if I just turned it into a trans debate, and how the therapists who are pushing that stuff are evil demons. So I tried to not go super deep into that, but I could do a whole debate about that. And if I ever go against Owlish in this thing, because now as we get to the later rounds, they're starting to ask us like Okay, what do you want to debate now? Instead of a list of prompts, they're asking us like, what's a topic that we can debate about, or the prompts are going to get more, more and more, intense, and this competition is going to get stiffer. Pause. But so if I go up against Alish and I get on the phone with Alish and whoever from War, I'm be like, I want an LGBT debate. I want a trans debate. I don't care if we do trans ideology is evil, gender hormone treatment for kids is demonic and wicked. LGBT is some made up commie gobbledygook. I don't know, whatever prompt, but we could do that. I've never done a debate on those topics, and that's I think that's one of the easiest. That and abortion, like I know that stuff. Just those are easy, and they're very common debates. I've seen 1,000 abortion debates and 1,000 trans debates, but I've never done one.
You agree that there's I don't know, you can't respond, but there's like a very strict, I guess.
What? He's mine. You need to calm down, Marilyn. Hard and stiff like JS upper lip. What the? You don't get to claim me, Marilyn.
Like standard that you have to abide by when giving, like anybody any some sort of like care, gender affirming care, whatever it is. And
he said I didn't write anything for my opening, and I think he was commenting on me because on my closing. Usually with my closings, I don't write a closing, but I will write like, so like if you could see, I was just talking, and then I looked down at my notebook and I read for a little bit because like if I want to say something, instead of going and thinking about it, I want to say something that hits hard in my closing. I'll write like a little bit, and then so I'll do commentary. I'll comment on the debate, and then I'll have my written like little couple sentences, and then I'll wrap it up afterwards. But I didn't write my whole closing out. I just wrote a couple lines.
Intro, I define resilience as the capacity to face challenges. I believe.
Gross. No.
That therapists can help you face those challenges, and that's why healthcare professionals and everybody in like higher fields all pay people thousands of dollars per session or thousands of dollars per year, tens of $1,000s per year to do this. And whenever I mention cognitive behavioral therapy, it is true that it's not necessarily being used on kids, but I feel like a mimication of CBT on severe.
How did therapy work out for Tony Soprano? That's another thing that I don't think I ever got to it much in the debate, or if I mentioned it, but a part of therapy culture is that when they started pushing it on through TV shows real heavily, there was Dr. Katz, there was The Sopranos, there was another big show where the person's seeing a therapist in every episode. I can't remember the other one. Sopranos is the main one. But around that same time, there were a bunch of shows that were coming out, big shows with a lot of therapy. And they started pushing it through media stuff. That's part of the rise of therapy culture.
Lower level, I don't see how that is harmful. There's been no evidence to prove that it is harmful to children or that it makes children weaker. I feel like therapy is backed up by psychology. That is a huge field. It is more modern, but I feel like it's backed up by experiments, statistics, replications, just like any other science.
No, psychology has the biggest replication crisis of any type of science. It's not science. It's not observable, testable, and demonstrable. It's not consistent. Everybody's brain works. Somebody who checks all the boxes of depression could be the happiest person you ever met. Another person that checks one box of depression could be miserable. You could have two soldiers who went to the same battle, saw the same everything. They come home. One guy is like fine. He's living his life. He's chilling. He never needs to go into the VA for his PTSD. The other guy is crippled with fear every day of his life, can't get out of his bed. They both had the same trauma, the same experience. How can you test and demonstrate why this one has PTSD and why this one doesn't? They've done studies, and it has something to do with the hippocampus. And they say, we don't know. They really don't know anything about PTSD, by the way. They don't know. What they're trying to figure out is if it's a precondition or a precursory problem with your hippocampus that makes you more likely to get PTSD, or if you get PTSD because of some sort of damage that happens to your hippocampus during the trauma. So they don't know. They think PTSD has something to do with your hippocampus. But two people, they could CAT scan them. And everything's the same. They went through the same experience. One of them is crippled by PTSD. One of them has no care in the world or no thought about it. It doesn't bother them at all. And so they're like, okay, well then, so this guy who has the PTSD, there's something wrong with his hippocampus. Now, was it before the incident that he had his hippocampus was like designed to be affected by this, or did the event damage his hippocampus and then post hoc, then he gets PTSD because of whatever happened to his hippocampus? But they don't know. They actually don't know shit about PTSD. It's just a made up grouping of words that they say something happened to this person in the past. They're having a hard time dealing with it. PTSD. The same thing happened to their brother or their sister, and they don't have any problems with it. Why? Well, figure it out. Science. You can't. You mean you can't figure it out? You have no freaking clue what you're talking about? That's not science. Science is knowing or to know, from the Latin science.
It's also backed up by, throughout this entire debate, there's been no study that shows that there's causation. He also gave an analogy, an analogy.
Something's wrong with your medulla oblongata.
Like a Band-Aid, saying that if I go and fall down, I cut myself and I put up a Band-Aid, I don't go to hospital. That may be true, but if you did go to the hospital, they'd fix the cut, right? It's not like, I don't understand. Maybe you could say this thing about opportunity cost, because you'd have to pay all the money for going to the hospital, but I don't see how
Not
as
the
a
hippopotamus
for
campus.
overcompensating for potential harms or for potentially getting infected.
I'm not making up words.
And
I swear medulla oblongata is a word. This is the part of your brain that controls anger, Bobby. Something's wrong with your medulla oblongata, boy. No, Colonel Sanders. Something's wrong with your medulla oblongata.
And for all the other examples you gave, I do acknowledge that individuals misuse science sometimes. So if there's
not Abdullah oblongata is a Muslim guy in Pakistan. That's Abdul oblongata.
Prescription of drugs on whatever it was, like the 1990s or whatever time period he gave, I do acknowledge that is bad. I think that it is a misuse of science. I do not think that is a...
The science told them to do that. Actually, no, it didn't, because there's no such thing as the science for it, because it's a fake. It's not really science, as I just explained. So they just were prescribing boys with Ritalin because they were too rambunctious and rowdy, and they wanted them to act more like girls, because schools are designed for girls. They want you to sit at a desk, read your thing, make your scrapbook, do your homework, do your notes. Girly crap. Boys just want to go outside and play. I think schools should be separated, girls and boys. The girls' school, they just keep doing it how they do it. Boys' school is like nature camp. You know? We learn geometry by carving arrowheads. We learn math by stockpiling by hunting and gathering and stockpiling food to last us through the winter. We have to do the math and figure out how much food we need for the mouths to feed. And then we've got to go hunt it, gather it. Science, we learn how to preserve it. Freaking PE, we're climbing tree. It's all PE.
Necessarily something that people that are on my side of the.
But instead of that, what we do is we put them in the desk next to the girl and we give them a pill to make them tweak out at school for 6 hours, 8 hours. They call that Boy Scouts. Yeah, well, unfortunately, Boy Scouts now has transgender children in it. So I don't know if that's a great idea. You mean the Scouts of America? It's not called Boy Scouts anymore. They changed the name. They still have Girl Scouts, though. Ain't got no Boy Scouts no more.
This debate necessarily advocate for. Yeah, that's pretty much. I think it pretty much covers.
Maryland is an escape mental patient.
That therapy culture does not lead to weaker people.
All right. Congratulations, debaters. We've done it.
Find somebody who's been in therapy for 10 years. And me. We'll get into a UFC ring. We'll get into an octagon. And we'll see who's weaker.
We're at the end, JS and Haji. I guess now that you guys are done, you've put everything on the table that you can. How do you feel about the debate? How do you think it went?
I think it went well. This was fun. It's a different format that I've never done before. Almost feels like it's too short, but I know you gotta move through them. So, but I had fun.
Yeah, I still had a ton of stuff. Dude, I had like 3 pages of notes. I didn't get to touch on a lot of my points. It went by fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Big fan of you, by the way. Okay. I watch your whatever podcast and all that type of stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I think this debate was interesting. My first formal debate. I've never had a formal debate before.
I wonder if they left the part in. Hold on, I'm not gonna say it because if they took it out, I don't want to say it. But if it's in here, I will comment on it.
I think I should have taken more notes prior. I think I should have studied more to have more concrete examples. But yeah, I think it went well. I think the person, JS or whatever your name is, I think he's good faith. So I think that it was a good conversation overall. And I really think that this.
I am good faith. I told you guys I'm good faith. Everybody says I'm good faith. I got something coming up. I might have to turn off the good faith. Oh man, I might have to turn off the good faith and just go full freaking savage mode. What if you're debating somebody who's never been good faith in their life? And they're just a rude, obnoxious piece of crap. Should you be good faith with that person? I think not.
Work debate thing is super cool. I really, really like
whatever your name is. Yeah. Dude, I know. I could have said that about him. I couldn't remember his name either. I still can't say his name. It's like Haji Uguago or something. But he was a cool guy. His tryout video was about abortion. He's pro-abortion, pro-choice, and he used the consciousness argument. I told him, I said, no matter how this goes, in the future, I got some places. If you ever want to do like an abortion debate, we could do that. So, and he's like, yeah, I'd be down. So we'd probably get him on Swords of Reason.
Kasparian versus Pearl debate. So I think it's really cool that they're putting this thing and letting people like me that don't necessarily have a platform have the ability to, potentially, debate and, get experience and stuff like that. So big ups.
Awesome. All right. Well, That's it, guys. The fate is no longer in your hands, but it is now in the hands of the audience. So voting is now going to be open for the next 48 hours to those of you who word button and com.
Yeah, this is why we're watching this, guys. There's 7 hours left to vote. If you haven't voted yet, can you throw that link in there, King? If you haven't voted yet, make sure you go vote. Turn off good faith, and let's debate about giants.
And you see a big old button there that says vote. You click that button and make sure when you look at this that you know which person is the person that you actually would like to be voting for. Is it Haji, who argues that therapy culture is not making us weaker? That you're really clear on is when you're thinking about who you vote for, don't just vote for the person who you like the most, who has the best personality.
Don't listen to her, guys. Just vote for me because I'm awesome. All right.
But really think about who has the arguments that were strongest. So again, that's not people who are just saying things you agree with. Those
The ad homs would be awesome. Shut up, you giant denier. I'll show you a giant. I'm a giant. You're a little man.
Those are people using clear definitions of words, counter examples and counterfactuals, effective analogies to slice through opponents' arguments and come to the strongest piece of evidence and argumentation for their side. So make sure you vote for those individuals specifically. So remember, go to our website, www.wordwardebate.com.
Do my eyes move too much? Or is it all right? Do I need to like not move my eyes? It's because I have like, if I'm looking over here, I'm looking at him. If I'm looking here or here, I'm looking at the moderator. If I'm looking over here, I'm looking at my, usually my OBS or my notes or my files or something. But sometimes I'm just looking around at shit. Should I not? Do I move my eyes too much? Oh, wonky eyes, JS. Shut up. We have to just stare at the camera. See, even I can't even do it. It feels weird. Wear shades. Everyone can tell you're autistic. I am not autistic.
Click
I don't believe in that.
the button vote and tune in there. Also, make sure you follow us on all of our socials. Like I said, tickets for the August event will be available very soon. You can buy them there. And so make sure you are following us on every platform that you use so that you stay up to date, not just series, so you can help. I'm Kyla. I go by Not So Erudite online.
Okay, they left it out. After it was over, he asked Erudite how he did. Because I think he said he's a fan of hers, and he's like, "How do you think I did, Erudite? Can you give me your thoughts on how I did?" And she's like, and I was sitting there, and I looked up, and I was like, "Is she gonna answer this in front of me?" Like, because I'm pretty sure she agrees with him, and she disagrees with me. And I was like, I wonder if she's gonna answer this. And she said, "No, I'm not. I can't do that with you guys here. I can't give my comments on it. I'm just the moderator." She said, maybe in the future I'll talk about it on a stream or something. And I respected that. I was like, okay, that was cool. I thought she was about to be like, well, this JS guy's probably, he has a Trump flag. He's probably an idiot. No, but it was good. Where's the medulla oblongata located, sissy? I don't know. In my brain somewhere.
You can find me every.
Something's wrong with your medulla oblongata. All right, guys, go vote. I think King left. He's probably in bed. He didn't put the link in there. Where can I get the link from? Hold up. Is it in the description? Quizzes, transcript. Hold on, I'll grab the link. JS lacks a medulla oblongata. Maybe. Is that the Haji from Johnny Quest? Oh, that's right. He did kind of look like Haji from Johnny Quest. Copy text. Let's see if this works. If you guys haven't voted yet, go hit up the vote. If you think I lost, you know, vote for Haji. But everybody knows I never lose, so you know how it is. There's only 7 hours left, so anyway, that's that. We're not gonna react to the other one, but the Nick Turner guy, her husband, oh, right now there's the Glenn is premiering. Now, if I'm right, and it works out so that the morning debate and the night debate, the winner of those two go against each other. Teriak is tonight. Glenn is right now. If Glenn wins and Teriak wins, that might mean that in round 2, it's Teriak versus Glenn.
President or
that's not reality because Kamala Harris is not president.
I don't want to steal their premiere material, but how long has it been on? I just want to listen for a few minutes just to kind of get the vibe of it. And Ryan's moderating. Hold on, I'm not gonna play the whole thing or anything like that. I just want to listen to a couple minutes just to see kind of like how the vibe is going.
President. So if we're going to talk about reality, use reality.
She's currently leading the race for primaries to be the.
Should military service be required to vote? I'm sure Glenn is saying yes. Probably, maybe not. I don't know. Does anybody know? JS lacks an intermittent organ. What? Glenn has the worst opening I've ever heard in my life. Which side is he on? See, I just want to listen for a minute. I don't want
to.
She didn't win last time, and she's probably not going to win this time. So help me.
But if he wins this and Teriak wins tonight, I think those two will be against each other in round 2.
Out here, live in reality. Reality, we have Donald Trump as president. So there we go.
We're never going to have a left-wing president.
I don't know. If we implement my policy, probably not.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Your policy is going to lead to a one-party state. Basically, whoever's in power first gets to shape their electorate forever.
No, I think mine opens up a third-party option as independents a lot more because independents do defend this nation. There's a lot of independents that vote Republican, but because they vote Republican, they don't have a big enough party. So I think your approach is narrow-minded.
I would say it's narrow-minded to say that there's never going to be a left-wing president.
I can't follow. I don't understand what they're talking about. The prompt is, should military service be required to vote?
Who will use the weapons that you gave them, the political weapons, to shape the electorate against you. I think it'll backfire.
Sure, maybe in a hypothetical world that you're in. I mean, I'm just saying in reality, I don't see how that's going to happen. But sure.
Okay, in reality, there's never going to be a left-wing president. Okay.
It's possible.
That's a hypothetical world, Glenn. You're posing a hypothetical world too.
And if we
a dog turd mocks Glinda, Teriak will mock Glenn. I think so too. I'm setting a record for people blocking me on X today. It's because Glenn goes completely off point. Yeah, I'm not sure. Just play his opening. All right, yeah, we'll just do that.
So, Glenn, get ready.
For you guys. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that my opponent's from Canada. Now,
oh my God. What a horrible way to open. Is he going to say he can't talk about this because he's Canadian? You're going to start with an appeal to authority? You're going to start with you're not allowed to talk about abortion because you're not a woman?
it's fascinating to me to be lectured about civic responsibility, citizenship, and voting rights by somebody whose country's national defense strategy is pretty much summed up as, don't worry, America's got it. That's not an insult. That's
No, it's not an insult. It's just a fallacy. Your opening of your opening is a fallacy.
just geography. America spends millions and billions of dollars.
Like, this is like saying that we're not allowed to talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. That's a bad example because people would say Israel is an American ally. I don't know. We're not allowed to talk about the North Korea and anything. We're not allowed to talk about anything else in the world. What the hell? Sorry, I'm dumbfounded. Jay's the one with the wonky eye. I don't have wonky eyes.
Maintaining the most powerful world military, while Canada enjoys the luxury of knowing that if something goes sideways, Uncle Sam isn't going to sit there and watch. So when it comes to this discussion about civic duty, sacrifice, and national service, I think America has earned at least a seat at the table. Now, let's be honest. Canada has become famous for some things that many Americans look at and say, wait, you're doing what now? Like, for example, a country where assisted dying has expanded into areas that would be considered unthinkable generations ago. If you have...
Yeah, the MAID program is horrible. What's this have to do with the prompt?
Drones, euthanasia, no problem. A country where identity politics and social ideology has become a major cultural export. Now, today we're going to be discussing whether or not a citizen should serve their nation before exercising the political power is somehow unreasonable. See, now I disagree with this position. My position is simple. Every right grants power. Free speech gives people the power to influence others. Property rights give you power over resources. The right to bear arms gives you power to defend yourself and others. And voting gives you the political power over the lives of millions of fellow citizens. Now, the greater the power grants you, the greater the responsibility that should accompany it.
Okay, yeah. This is something I always say, that every right comes with a responsibility. Crowder said that for years. A lot of people say that. So the right to vote comes with a responsibility. In this case, that responsibility would be military service. Okay, he's getting there.
That principle exists in everywhere else in society. Parents have authority over their children, but they also have obligations. Employers have authority over their employees, but they also have obligations. Government officials have authority, but they also have to live by and operate within those obligations. Why should voting be one of those areas where authority exists without any expectations of responsibility? Voting is not merely just self-expression. Voting determines taxes. It determines spending. It determines immigration policy. It determines criminal justice policy. Voting influences foreign policy and also military action.
Okay, he's getting to a point here. I see where he's going. Okay.
Voting affects every citizen in the nation. So if we're going to hand someone that kind of political authority, it is really reasonable to ask them to demonstrate some commitment to that country first. If you don't believe so, well, let me explain a little bit more. See, this is why I support a national service as a prerequisite of voting. Military service should be a prerequisite of voting. But I could also expand it and say firefighting, law enforcement, emergency response, disaster relief.
Bucket duty. He said firefighting. Yeah.
Infrastructure projects, and also conservation efforts. Any meaningful form of national service demonstrates a discipline, sacrifice, and accountability and commitment to the common good.
So you just defeated your own argument. I don't have to go to the military. I could just do bucket duty in the firefighting brigade or group or firefighters. I could just be a volunteer firefighter, and then I can vote. So I don't have to go to the military, or do I have to do all those things? I think he just made an argument and then rebutted his own argument instantly.
The goal is not exclusion. The goal is contribution. The goal is create citizens who not merely ask, what am I owed, but also asks, what do I owe my country in return? Because freedom is not self-sustaining. Someone has to defend it. Someone has to maintain it. Someone has to sacrifice for it. Rights tell us what we are allowed to do. Responsibilities remind us what we must do to preserve the system that make those rights possible.
Like, I agree. You should do some sort of civic duty to vote, but it doesn't have to be the military. Some people aren't cut out for the military. I don't think that scrawny, little guys, just guys who are just, their physiognomy is weaker and smaller, I don't think they should be going to the military, but they could do some sort of other civic duty. So he says we should require military service or civic duties like firefighting and police and blah, 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 and blah. Okay, so then it doesn't have to be the military. He killed his own argument.
My opponent may argue that everyone's affected by government should vote, but being affected by government has never been the standard. Children are affected by government. Tourists from France that come to America are affected by the government. Permanent residents are affected by the government. The real question is not who is affected. The real question is who has demonstrated a commitment to the nation. I believe political power should be tied to civic responsibility. I believe citizenship should involve both rights and duties.
Yeah.
And I believe if you're voting in the highest expression if voting is the highest expression of political authority in a republic, then the service to the republic is a reasonable prerequisite before exercising that authority. And with that, I will yield my time.
Thank you.
Okay, so he started with a appeal to authority fallacy. Basically, you shouldn't be talking about this because you're not American. So the authority is America, Americans. Only Americans can talk about this issue. If you're not American, you don't get to talk about it. You're not an expert on this. So you're not allowed to talk about this. So he starts with a fallacy. Then he makes a good point. Voting is a right or a privilege that comes with a responsibility. His whole argument should be military service is that responsibility. You have to do military service to vote. But then he gives a bunch of other alternatives like firefighters, like police stations, like community service. There's also, I don't know, you could freaking volunteer at a nursing home or something. Not everybody. There are smart guys, hardworking, smart guys who just aren't cut out for the military, but they could do other things. And he says that in his opening, which means why does it have to be military when you gave a list of other things that would be totally acceptable? Wow.
Thank you so much for your opening statement. Chris, get ready. We're turning to you for your opening statement.
I'm going to listen to this guy's opening and then we're going to get off of this because they don't want us, doing too much reacting action.
Well, yes, I'm from Canada, but I live in America and I'm married to an American.
Got him. That's done. You wasted a minute of your opening on that stupid Canada attack, just attacking Canada, which I guess could win points with an American-only audience, but this isn't an American-only audience.
I'm a permanent resident and I pay taxes here, so I'm going to argue that.
Got him. Dude, that's so funny. Glenn just heard he's Canadian. He's like, I live in America. I have an American wife. I pay taxes in America.
And the audience is American too, so I'm going to argue from an American perspective. And I'd also like to point out before we start the scope of the debate. He tried to widen the scope.
The audience isn't only American. This is YouTube. There's people from all over the world who will see this. Rev on point with his ribbon. He acts like his HOA is the NWA.
Scope right off the bat by expanding the proposition, which is about military service, to include volunteering.
Well, they're not talking about conscription to vote. Glenn is saying, Glenn's argument is supposed to be If you want to vote, you need to voluntarily serve in the military first. But then his whole thing was about you have civic duties that you can do to be able to vote, and then he gives a list of other civic duties that aren't military. So is he arguing you have to do all of those things, or you could do one of those things? And if it's one of those things, it doesn't have to be military. He gave other examples. He's saying all of them, then that's no, you can't do all of those things. But this isn't about required conscription to vote. It's just in order to vote, you need to voluntarily serve in the military.
And firefighters and conservation efforts, which is about military service to include volunteering and firefighters and conservation efforts. And that's not what we're debating today. The proposition is military service, serving in the armed forces, a prerequisite for voting? So that's what I'll be arguing. And what the reality is that serving in the military as a prerequisite for voting would disenfranchise about 94% of American adults right off the bat. And my opponent is...
Yeah, or you end up with people going to the military so that they could vote who have no business going to the military. That's why at least in America, now maybe in smaller homogenous nations that are defended by America, you can do required conscription, like in Scandinavian countries or in Israel, they'll have required conscription for everybody. And then they have countries where they have to have a gun in the house. They go to the military. It's basically like a little volunteer tour. There's no combat or anything. And then they get a gun when they leave, and they have to keep that gun in their home. I forget which country that is. I think it's Norway or I don't know. But anyway, in small, non-warring, homogenous nations that are defended by America, that's not a big deal. For America, I don't think we should have required conscription. But that's not even what this debate's about.
Arguing that's a good thing because of things like duty and honor and sacrifice. And these are nice ideals, and we'll get to them in a minute. But to begin with, I'm going to look at the practical realities of what this actually means. Practically speaking, if here's a list of people who no longer be able to vote: heart surgeons, brain surgeons.
Heart surgeons and brain surgeons. Yeah, well, hold on. Why would a heart surgeon? You can serve in the military and then go on to be a heart surgeon. And if something like this were imposed, I'm sure there would be a grandfather clause where if you were able to vote before it got put in, you'd still be allowed to vote. And then it would just be in the future, if you want to be able to vote, you serve in the military for a tour, and you would do it when you're young. You could still go on to be a heart surgeon or brain surgeon. But I would say autistic people, I don't know if autistic people should be voting. Some people just aren't cut out for the military, but they're smart enough to vote.
Oncologists, nurses, pilots, mechanics, hospice workers, engineers, pastors, small business owners, lawyers, judges, truck drivers, farmers. Consider a farmer, for example. A farmer could work 14-hour days from sunrise to sunset, feeding me, feeding you, feeding people he will never met. And I would be unable to look this farmer in the eye and tell him, hey, look, you feed me, you feed the nation, you pay your taxes, you're subject to our laws, your entire livelihood is dependent upon environmental policy and trade policy and gas prices and inflation, but you don't have a right to say how those policies are dictated. Another example is a hospice worker. A hospice worker could bathe your dying mother, feed your dying mother, administer medication, and pay taxes on every penny earned doing that. But under this proposition, they would have no say in how those taxes are spent. To me, that is completely morally indefensible and the antithetical really to the very concept of liberty. When one class of people performs 95% of the productive labor and pays 95% of the taxes, builds a country, feeds a country, and the separate armed caste, the military, monopolizes all the political power, that's political subjugation. And it divides society into masters who command and subjects who obey. And the word for that really is slavery. My use of the word slavery might seem hyperbolic, but it's at the heart of the American Revolution. Taxation without representation as slavery. John Dickinson wrote in
Boom. Boom. Taxation without representation. No taxation without representation.
1768 that those who are taxed without their consent, expressed by themselves or
How
their
about you need a
representatives,
job in
are
order to vote?
slaves. Sam Adams likewise wrote that taxation without representation reduced.
Not toot my own horn, but I pulled a better opening statement for mandatory conscription out of thin air on VK. They're not debating about mandatory conscription.
Free citizens to, quote, tributary slaves. And John Adams warned that man governed without his consent is not free, but a slave, and, quote, the most abject sort of slave to the worst sort of master. These founding fathers understood that when one class makes the laws and imposes taxes and exercises political power while the other class is simply commanded to obey, the latter.
Glenn's more comfortable on camera than this guy. That's about it. This guy's definitely smarter. This guy's definitely making more logical arguments and everything. The only difference is Glenn is more this guy's more camera shy. Glenn's more camera ready because he's been in front of cameras a lot.
Are not equal citizens, they're slaves. So my opponent today is really pitching like a feudal serfdom system, and let's call that what it actually is. It's the totally eliminating American liberty. Henry Ward Beecher wrote on the Plymouth pulpit in 1887, and I quote, "Liberty is the soul's right to breathe, and when it cannot take a long breath, laws are girdled too tight. Without liberty, man is a syncope." What I'm getting at is that human flourishing is impossible if your soul cannot breathe. And so my primary argument today is that severing political agency from 95% of the population destroys human flourishing and freedom. And so, yes, military service is among the highest forms of public service, and veterans deserve honor and respect. But there are many forms of sacrifice, and I offer something fundamentally more American than my opponent does. Government by the consent of the governed, not taxation without representation. George Washington's most legendary act wasn't winning the Revolutionary War. It was resigning his commission to the Continental Congress to establish that the military answers to civilians. My opponent wants to reverse this, making civilians answer to the military class. This is fundamentally un-American. Thank you.
Thank you, both debaters.
Woo! Cooked them. That's all I need to see of that. But Glenn has an audience. He's got, some people that he can get to go in and vote for him. So, I don't know. But then again, Glenn's also got some haters. That guy doesn't have no haters. I would vote. I won't vote until I watch the whole thing. And I voted for people that I voted for Alish. I don't like her, but she won that debate. I'll watch the whole thing later, and I'll vote for who I think won. But based off of those openings, if I just watch the openings, yeah. Glenn just got crushed on openings alone. I don't even know. Yeah, that was crazy. The heck is that? All right. I fixed the drum. We did some fundraising. We watched the debate. What time is it? It's 12:14. Yeah, I need to get to bed. I need to get to bed. Is anybody else streaming right now? Lawyer bro is moderating. Yeah, that's Ryan Malali. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. The hardest thing is when two people are debating and one side is objectively correct, but the other debated better. Yeah, for normies, I can understand for a normie who's not like a debater and doesn't, they're going to tend to just lean toward whatever side they agree with. But for me, I don't care if I totally agree with you. If you make stupid arguments and the other person knows the topics better and makes better, I can easily vote for the other person. Vote for the person I disagree with. All right, I'm tired, y'all. I need to get to bed. Dun 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 dun. Flow so hard, cause can't find me. That shit crack. You ignore me. Debate is goofy. One side is always right. You're goofy. What does that even mean? Debate is goofy. One side is always right. Would debate be less goofy if both sides were right? Or both sides were wrong? What the? All right. How to make pickle Pepsi at home for free. Pickle Pepsi? Pickle Pepsi. Hold on, I'm looking for raid places right now. I haven't raided Jim Bob in a while. So we'll raid Jim Bob. I'm not slow. I'm not slow. And I'm not slow at reading chat either. I just choose not to read your chat sometimes, Marilyn. Why vote for the better debater when there's a clear, correct position? Because that's not the point of the game. It's a game. It's a competition. Like in card games like Magic the Gathering, there could be a meta deck which is objectively the better deck. It's got all the best cards. It's the meta. It's the most winningest deck in the tournament at the time. It's the top performing deck. And you give that deck to somebody who's never played the game before. Then you take the shittiest, most garbage deck with all the crappiest cards and you give it to a professional who's very, very good at it, at the game, and knows the game like the back of their hands, knows all the plays to make. The guy with the shitty deck, the objectively worst deck, is better at the game. He goes in and crushes the guy with the good deck because he doesn't know how to play. It's like, well, no, he should just win because he has the better cards. Like, no, that's not the way it works. I don't play gay games. It's a straight game. All right. It's fine that you just don't understand what debate is, Rage Page. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. If you ever saw Dinesh D'Souza and Alex O'Connor's an atheist that was arguing against God. Dinesh D'Souza is a Christian who was arguing for God. Dinesh D'Souza got crushed. But it's fine if you don't understand what debate is. That's fine. You normie. It's not about who's right. Debate is not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about who conveys their ideas better. It's about charisma, argumentation, formal logic, fallacies. It's not. That's why a good debater can take something that they totally don't believe in, that's totally not true, and they can argue it and they can win a debate. This debate's not about who's right or who's wrong. All right. D&D is cool. If I had your followers, I'd turn my chat off and only do Discord. That's what sucks, because people are so lost and confused, they have no idea what to believe. All right. We're going to go to Jim Bob's. I got to go to bed, guys. I'm tired. One more night of work, and then it's the weekend again. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Make sure you guys go vote. I think I'll post it. If you haven't voted yet, go click that and vote. We're going to go over to Jim Bob's channel. So to win a debate, you just got to be good at arguing and not conceding. No, I just gave a list of things that lead to winning a debate. I'm not going to say it again. All right. Anyway, I'm out, y'all. Peace. Peace and chicken grease. You don't work Friday nights? No, I work Thursday night to Friday morning. I get off at 7 a.m. Friday morning. I don't work Friday to Saturday and Saturday to Sunday morning. All right, later. Don't get them confused when you vote. Josh is the white one. Yes, this is true. All right, later.